we are live. Peace and wellness, family. I hope that y'all are well and happy and whole and all that good stuff. I am the Queen Poe, y'all, and today we have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful conversation in the works with an amazing sister queen who is a spiritual psychologist and griot. She is also the author of two beautiful books, one called Shallow Waters and another one called The Wind on Her Tongue, which was the Wellness Community's March 2025 book of the month that everybody loved. I have to shout out Phoenix Goddess because she was one of the ones who was like, Queen, we have to read this book. And as everyone knows, this is the year of nine. I did a whole reading about the year of nine, which is Oya's number, Oya's year, and Oya energy is just so beautiful and bright during this time. Y'all may have seen her energy show up in the form of random tornadoes popping up. You may have seen her energy show up in the form of the ancestors coming back and reclaiming their time and reclaiming their energy with the burning of the Louisiana plantation. You may have seen her energy show up in your personal life through changes and transformations and revelations that are bringing you forward in your healing and your wellness. The Wind on Her Tongue. Ms.Anita Kopac's recent release is all about the Orisha Oya. It's a beautiful fiction story, and we're going to get into all of the good lessons and wisdom in that book. But first and foremost, I have to introduce the griot, the wisdom storyteller, the amazing author, the spiritual psychologist herself, the Queen, Anita Kopacz. Much love, Sister Queen, and welcome, welcome. Look how y'all looking gorgeous and glowing.
I'm trying to be like you, girl. I'm trying to be like you.
Divine alignment, divine reflections. It's so good seeing you, sis.
It's such an honor to be here. I'm so happy. My friend Kathleen actually sent me your link to one of your YouTube videos, and she didn't realize that I didn't know that I was one of the book club for March, right? She was like, she thought I knew, and I was like, what? And I got so excited. And so I'm so happy that we're making it happen right now.
Yes, yes. I'm super excited to talk to you. I told you, I was telling the community that you were coming. And when I shared with them that you are a spiritual psychologist, that is the thing that really had them like, we want to talk about that. We want to talk about that. Y'all see me back here rubbing Salam, trying to soothe him. Salam is my dog, girl. He gets to going. Anytime I'm on live, he always loves to make his little special appearance. But before we get into your work as a spiritual psychologist, I want to talk about you and your spiritual journey. When and where did your intentional spiritual journey begin? Because we all, especially Black folks, we all grew up with some type of spirituality around us, most of us. But when and where did your intentional spiritual journey begin for self?
Ashe. I love that you said intentional, that you made that very clear. So for me, it was when I was 18, and I had what I thought, or what the experience felt like, maybe like a mental breakdown, or like it felt like I was going crazy, right? And what happened was that, so that part wasn't intentional, but this is how it started, right? Like, this is how I'm getting into it. So I started hearing voices. And so it was like audible, right? Like I can hear these voices, and they weren't saying nice things. And I was in college, I was walking to school, and I would hear these voices. And what I think, I guess, looking back, what I'm proud about was that I knew myself well enough that to know that these voices were not me, right? Like I was like, you know what? These are saying crazy things. Like, one of the things that it said was, I want to kill my parents. And I was like,
wow,
so far away from anything I've ever thought. So that when I heard that, I look around and I see that I'm passing by people. And as I'm passing by them, I'm hearing these things. And I was like, oh, hell no. Am I hearing what people are thinking? And so because I'm 18, I start asking people. Because I heard this one girl crying, and I heard that something had happened to her 3 days ago. So I was like, did something happen to you 3 days ago that you're sad about? And she freaked out, right? She was like, how did you know? Right? Like, and I was just like, okay, okay. So it's kind of testing it out. And so I tried to go to class that day, wasn't able to, because I was hearing so much. And I got home, and there was this guy outside who was a family friend, a friend of my older sister's.
Mm.
And he's smiling, talking to me, and all I hear him saying is, I don't know where my wife and kids are. And I was just like, I know you don't know where your wife and kids are. And he grabbed me up and he was like, where are they? And I was like, no, I don't know where they are. And he's like, I can hear you saying you don't know where they are. And he's like, I didn't say that. Right. And it was like this physical thing. Like he grabbed me and I was so scared. I just ran upstairs and I started praying. I was like,
Mm.
this is supposed to be a gift. I don't want it. I can't
'Cause
handle
that's intense.
it. Intense. Right. And so after that, I just was like, God, if there's some like muted way that you can give this to me, please, please let me know. And that night when I went to sleep, I had this vivid dream that I was throwing stones and
Mm.
shells and reading them. And I didn't know what
Ooh.
that was at that point, right? I didn't know. I was raised in a Christian household, and so I didn't know what that was, but it felt like home. That's what it
Mm.
felt like.
Mm.
And so I started practicing on my friends. So this was a long time ago. 30 years ago, right? This is like
Wow.
30 years ago. So it wasn't during this time when there's a lot of this going on, right? Like now a lot of people are doing that. So there were a lot of things that I went through where, people called me demon and all those things.
Mm.
They probably would do it today too, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's different. And so that was like, I would say the beginning, like the beginning of the journey.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. That spiritual gift sounds super intense, right? And like a lot of people would think that they would want that. They think that they want to be able to hear what people are thinking and all of that. But sometimes we will be surprised by what people are repressing, the thoughts that people are repressing. And I think that having that type of gift is a beautiful, beautiful way to be able to get a deeper understanding of people. And I'm wondering, what was your next step in your spiritual journey after that? Like, once you decided that, okay, I have this gift, I'm going to pray that I get a little bit more clarity with this level of intensity, and I can kind of tone this down a little bit, but still be able to do my spiritual work. What was your next step in your spiritual journey after that? Did you get initiated? Did you start practicing hoodoo, or did you return to any type of religion? What was the next step for you?
So I wouldn't call myself a religious person. I have
Okay.
been very, a spiritual person, like
Yeah.
very much. Like to me, I would say I'm most connected to my spirit. If I think of the different layers of existence, and
Mm,
I've done a lot of work to come into my human self, right? Like
yeah.
I know that sounds funny, but it's like to come into my human self, to come into my emotional body. I've done a lot of work in order to do that because,
Mm,
I see spirits. Like there's so many things that have happened since I was a child and that I've communed with. And so what I did after that was I went and I got my master's in spiritual psychology so that I
yes.
could then have almost like a grounding practice to speak with people, because what was happening when I was just doing the readings, it felt as though I was almost like a puppy show, right? Uh, like a circus. Like people would come and be like, "How do you know that?" And da da da, and no changes were happening in their life. And one
Mm,
of the things that you said was, it's so interesting what people are repressing, right? And if we think of there's different layers of thought. One of those layers of thoughts are just like the things that people have said to us that are negative and and are like a record player in our head,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about making those thoughts go away. It's about us not believing them.
Mm.
It's almost
Mm.
impossible to make them go away, right? Because they're like, it's like a recorded record almost in our head. But it's like, like for me, one of the thoughts that's very young is like, I'm so ugly, right?
Mm.
So when I'm like in the mirror now and I hear that thought come up, I'm like, oh, honey,
You give it no energy. You give it
no
no
energy,
power.
no power.
Mm.
And it's not that it doesn't ever come up. It's just that there's no, like you said, no energy, no power goes towards it. So, right, wherever our attention goes, it grows. So if I'm not putting
Yes.
my attention on that, it kind of just fades away, right?
Mm. Mm.
And there are just so many beautiful tools that we can use, which I know so many, right? And it's
Yeah.
just like sometimes when we're in a triggered space, we forget we have any.
Whew. Come on now. Come on now. What Mike Tyson said, everybody know how to fight until they get punched in the face. We can have this whole toolbox full of spiritual tools and practices of things that we are going to do and yada, yada, yada. We can have all of that. But when you are in the midst of being triggered, what tool are you going to go to? What will you even remember? There's this saying that a lot of people think they are healed, but you are not really healed. You are just hiding from your triggers, right? And
Yes.
that happens oftentimes on our healing journey where we go into this moment of solitude. And solitude is a good thing. But sometimes going into solitude and being somewhat of a recluse, you're not really giving yourself the full opportunity to really see where you are on your healing journey, because you will know the truth about where you are once you are triggered and how you respond to that trigger. I want to ask you about your work as a spiritual psychologist, because like I said, the wellness community was loving that, right? You said you went and got your master's as a spiritual psychologist. How does spirituality and psychology work together?
Yes. I mean, for me, there's no way to uh, there's no way to pull that apart, right? Within my
Mm.
mind. In spiritual psychology, the well-being is someone who, it's so simple, is someone who can love and be loved, right?
Mm.
Simple, not necessarily easy, right?
Mm.
And so it's like if we feel any blocks in any of those things, like to love, right? Like, say, maybe even if we think about I was just talking with my friend Marisha, because the next book is going to be Oshun, and I was saying
Yes.
one of the things, like, it's so nice because Oshun is all around right now, right, with the sweetness and all of these things. And I was like, there is one aspect that's really intense that is coming up for me, because I really embody them as I'm writing. And one of those aspects is jealousy, which
Mm.
with Yemeya and Oya, I didn't feel that, right? It wasn't something that came up. And so with this Oshun energy, it's almost like I want to be the golden child, right? And if I'm in a place where I'm not feeling like the golden child, I can feel the jealousy come up. And
Mm.
it's so interesting because it's foreign to me, but it's like I can't ignore it, because, oh, okay, all right, I'm feeling a little jealous of this person right now. Like, what's going on, right? And going into that and asking myself, because a lot of times if I'm feeling jealousy, or if someone's feeling jealousy, it's an indicator. It's just simply an indicator of what you want in your
Yes.
life, and that's it,
Yes.
rather than going into deeply like, oh, the envy, jealousy, right? But it's just like, okay, let that trigger be um, just like a notification, right? Okay, let me write that down. What is it? What am I jealous about, right? Is it how this person is showing up? Is it
Mm.
oh, they're a New York Times bestseller, right? Like,
Yeah.
thinking like, what is it that is making me feel that, and kind of writing that down and seeing like, okay, if this wasn't already one of my goals, realizing that this
Maybe
is
this is
my
something I need to
goals.
focus on.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. So, what I'm hearing and understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong or build on the understanding, what I'm understanding is that what you are doing is understanding the energy, right? Because Oshun, the Orisha Oshun, right? She is a divine feminine Orisha. And I'm saying this for people who are new, who may be watching this for the first time and have no idea who the Orishas are or what they do. The Orisha Oshun is one of the beautiful and very popular divine feminine Orishas who a lot of people know for her aspects and attributes of love and sensuality and fertility. But Oshun also has other aspects, right? She's a warrior for a reason. Oshun is powerful. She has the power to also, just like Yemoja, to flood people, to flood lands with her waters in order to cleanse them. She also has the power to cleanse people and to elevate their divine feminine energy from within. But an aspect of Oshun is jealousy, right? And as our sister Queen just explained, that is something that can come up. So you're understanding the energy of the jealousy and why that energy may be present when Oshun energy is high and elevated. But then you do the psychological work to understand what is triggering this jealousy. What is this jealousy teaching me? How can I do the work to heal what is triggered, right? And how can I utilize this to then return back to the spiritual practice of maybe manifesting what it is that I desire, right? So that's like the blend of the spirituality and the psychology. The spirituality is understanding the energy. The psychology is doing the work to understand the mental trigger, and then doing the healing work, and then returning to the spiritual to manifest the desire, right? So like a blend of the spirituality and psychology. I love, love, love that. You are the first person I've ever heard use that term of spiritual psychology. But even as you are describing it, I'm thinking of people like Carl Jung, right? Who is the king of shadow work, right? And shadow work is very popular when people are on their healing journey. But that is really spiritual psychology. How do you feel about shadow work and Carl Jung work as a whole?
So I think Carl Jung, I do like his work, but he was racist as fuck, and
As
so
fuck, girl. Like I want to fight him, but thank him at the same time. Like we want to jump him, but also we appreciate you a little bit that you did. You did that a little bit, but we gonna beat your ass
exactly, exactly. The shadow work is so necessary, and there is an aspect, because with shadow work, why some people are scared of it is that if you do have traumas that have happened in your life, thinking about the trauma and even thinking about talking about the trauma, your body goes into a fight or flight thinking that you're actually reliving the trauma.
Very
And
true.
so it is hard. Like, you have to remind yourself, I am not going through it again. That's not what's happening. I've already survived. I'm actually going through a place to recover the jewels. Every trauma has a freaking treasure chest of jewels within it if you can sit and look at it and be with yourself. Right?
Yes.
Like, it
Yes.
really does. So, like, all of these things haven't just happened for no reason. It is a part of our human experience. We all chose to come here and have this human experience. All of these things, we picked our parents, right? We picked all of these things before we came here. And so
Yes.
if you feel like you're going through something where it's like, I would have never picked this shit, think about, why would you have? What lessons could you learn from it? And and all of us are here for a certain amount of time. Some people are only here for a tiny bit of time. Some people, I mean, even within, the wind on our tongue, a big thing with Oya is that she is a goddess mother of people who have experienced stillbirths, abortions,
Yes.
miscarriages, right?
Yeah.
And so even those beings who have come for just a tiny bit of time, they had a reason, and they had a whole journey. And we know, or some of us know, that time doesn't really exist in a linear fashion. Everything has happened already, and we're experiencing it. We're experiencing it in a linear
Yes.
fashion, right? And so the smallest amount of time, and the something that seems like such a long life, right? All of that is just as important.
Ashe.
And so I just feel like the whole point is like, what is the treasure within the traumas that we've experienced
Wow, I
and
love that.
our
I love that.
ancestral, right? Our ancestral traumas, finding those treasures in case that we are living in a time where we have the privilege to do this work, right? Sometimes some of our ancestors were not that they were just in survival mode, because they found their joy, they did all of that, but there has been a lot of trauma passed down through our family lines and things
Yes.
that they have experienced. And so finding the treasure in that is shadow work as well.
I love that. I love that. And that's epigenetics, right? Like a lot of times when we are doing this healing work, we're only focusing on the trauma that we know. But something that we always have to keep in mind when it comes to that ancestral trauma is the epigenetics, right? Like the traumas that we don't know, you know? And I want to be clear when I say this, especially for Black people all over the diaspora, right? It's important to understand that within the epigenetic trauma, it's not just about slavery, right? That is huge. But there may have been traumas that was experienced in the homeland that we have no education of, that's not written in any record book or any story, right? But things that may have happened before the slave ships even entered the picture. And that is epigenetically passed down, you know? So I love that you mentioned essentially the soul contract, right? And that we chose this, we choose this. And I always tell the community, I'm always telling the tribe, like, listen, we are spirit beings having a human experience. And
That's right.
sometimes we can be so spiritually high that we are an earthly fool. And we must never forget, really, really, like, girl, sometimes I just listen to things and I'm like, baby, you so deep in trying to connect with spirit that you are forgetting to enjoy this humanness, right? Enjoy this human experience. And a question that I'm always asking is the why. Why? And not why from a sense of like, this is unworthy of my presence, but what is the gem in this trauma? What is the gem in this experience? And I love the way that you put that. I do think that, you know, sometimes that can be hard for people to hear, right? When people have experienced great traumas, right? Like I mean, come on, we could talk about sexual abuse, physical abuse, you know, abandonment and great traumas like that. Sometimes it can be hard for them to hear and fathom that there is a gem in that trauma.
Oh yeah.
What would you tell people who have been through these great traumas and it's triggering for them to even hear that there's a gem in there? What would you tell them?
Mhm. Yes, I know exactly. I have sexual trauma in my past. I was molested as a child, and a part of my work that I do, I work with women who have experienced sexual trauma, and so so I absolutely understand, right? That it's like, what? How could there even be a gem within that? And it's literally it's a whole process. But to me, I don't want to say it takes a long time, because for everyone it just takes that moment. Like for some people it can just be like an awakening, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh wow,
Yeah.
not that we're just healed, but it's just we become more and more of ourselves. And but for me, it was a whole process of, I didn't want to talk about it. I was not sexual. I didn't feel sexual, right? I had to go through all of these different things to find my I'm now a tantra coach, so yes, I have found my sexuality, right?
Yes.
It's here now. It's here, don't worry.
Come on, Tantra.
But I went through a lot, of like hiding and not wanting to face that, couldn't even talk about it. It was stuck in my throat chakra, right? And so I completely understand. And for me, I feel like everyone's journey is so specific to them, and that your intuition is your guide. And so if you are seeing this, if you are feeling this means that this is your sign that something is happening and moving. And so, like the amount of things, the millions of things that are happening around us at one moment. It's us understanding where our attention is going. What are we noticing, right? Amazing woman that I just did a writer's retreat with, Vanessa, she was talking about that, like, what are we noticing? And so to me, if you are noticing that, like, oh, I'm noticing this woman, Anita is talking about, um, sexual trauma. Oh my gosh, I had sexual trauma. I'm feeling something somewhere in my body, like
Yeah.
everyone feels it somewhere different. And if you're noticing that, that means you've now started or continuing the path into, okay, now it's my turn to heal that part of myself. It's my
Yes.
turn to find the gem. I had the conversation with the person who was my perpetrator. And for my whole life, I did not want to talk to him, right? I was like, no, I don't even want to have any experience of any I didn't want to talk to him, basically. My tantra coach was like, at the time, she was like, you are a 40-year-old woman. You are not that 7-year-old girl.
Wow.
You can have this conversation with him and you can tell him what I feel emotional. You can tell him how this made you feel and all of the work that you've had to do in order to heal that. And so I did. I had the conversation and he was crying. He was like, thank you so much for just allowing this space to be here. The same thing happened to me when I was 7. And I wonder if that's what like made, it was a conversation that I would have never allowed myself to have because there was so much hatred and
Yeah.
sadness and blame. And it's a wonder what we can do through communication, which is Oya,
Wow.
right?
That's
Oya.
all your energy. Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. First off, thank you for sharing that and thank you for your vulnerability. That is so, so appreciated. And I think that the vulnerability is beautiful because I think it's important to understand and to show people that healers are also healing, right? Spiritual psychologists are also doing the work to spiritually and psychologically deepen their understanding of self, right? So, again, just thank you for being a beautiful display of a worker also doing the work, right? And I appreciate that. And I know that the tribe is deeply connecting with that. The chat is going crazy right now with gratitude for you and your work that you're doing and everything you're sharing. I want to ask you because you mentioned intuition and you've mentioned ancestors and you've mentioned Oya, which of course we're going to get to the wind on her tongue and shallow waters. I want to talk about both, right? But I want to ask you, when it comes to the ancestors, when it comes to your intuition, when it comes to your chakras, right? And tapping in and studying self, the universe is always conspiring in our favor, right? Our intuition is always speaking to us. Ancestors are always clearing our path and protecting us. So many things are working for us and with us. And I love that you acknowledged it's important to focus your attention on what you want to grow, essentially, right? Like where your attention goes, that's where the energy grows. And there's so many things that are happening, but we have the power to make the choice to focus on wellness and focus on what's working for us. For you, how do you do that, right? How do you tap into your intuition? And can you share an example of a time that you've noticed that your intuition was guiding you, ancestors were protecting you, and the universe was conspiring in your favor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, the first rule with intuition, if there is fear, then it is not intuition. If it
Oh, speak
is
on it.
fear, it is not intuition. And even if it does come up as a warning, right? Because we can
Yeah.
get warnings, but if there's fear, then that's just our fear. If it's actually something that, if you feel it as just like being said to you as for me, okay, let me try to explain. Like for me, I to practice intuition, it'll be something like Oh, I hear my mind say, grab that pen before I leave the house. And then I ignore it and I go and I realize I needed that pen. Right. And so it's just doing the little tiny things that you hear your intuition saying, right? That are not as dire, right? Like things that are like our fears or paranoias. Because sometimes
Yeah,
it can be like, oh, it's my intuition, but if it's fear or paranoia, it's not.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, working with my ancestors, if I feel fear or paranoia, it's not them, right?
Mm.
It's like my ancestors, they're hilarious. I feel like they're like speaking to me right now, but they are gangsta.
Come on, thugging ancestors. Come on, hit them up, ancestors.
Really are.
The ancestors coming through like, fuck your bitch, you neglect you
It is hilarious. It is hilarious. But I guess because we're talking about the books, I'll talk about one of, to me, like when I was writing, especially with Harriet Tubman. When people work with Harriet Tubman, I feel like a lot of people have this experience. She is loud. Like if you ask her, if you choose to work with her, she has her voice. She has her voice. She's not afraid to use it. You can hear it. So at the time when I was writing, so this is when I was writing Shallow Waters, I was
Yeah.
the editor-in-chief of Heart and Soul magazine at this time.
Yes.
And I was writing Shallow Waters at night. And I wrote this part where Harriet Tubman gave this 2-year-old a tincture for them to fall asleep on the Underground Railroad so that they wouldn't miss. And after I wrote it, I was just like, you know what? I don't know if Harriet Tubman was an herbalist. And I had Googled at this time, I couldn't find anything. Now it's everywhere. We all
Yeah.
know she was an herbalist. But most of our ancestors during that time were herbalists. That was just a
Yeah.
natural part of, right, how we existed, right? Or the medicine brought from our homeland. And so,
And the
but I
only thing that they were allowed to have access to at that time, right? This is at a time where our ancestors weren't allowed to be served by the medical doctors of that time, right? They weren't allowed to get the equal opportunity of service. So they had to make do with what they had and use their wisdom from home to heal each other. So I thank you for acknowledging that.
Ashe,
Yeah.
Ashe. And so I was like, I'm going to take that part out of the book, but I'll just do it tomorrow, was what I thought. Because I tried, even though it is a fiction, I've tried really hard to keep it historically correct, right?
Absolutely.
And so I had a sales meeting the next day in the city. And the sales meeting was in a restaurant. So we had the people who we were having the meeting with, and then it was open to other people in the restaurant. And so after the sales meeting was over, this random woman who wasn't a part of the sales meeting comes up to me and she says, this is the first thing she says to me. Did you know that Harriet Tubman was an herbalist? Didn't say hi. Nothing else. She just was like, said that. And I was like, why would you say that to me? And she was like, well, I was reading it this morning and I just saw you. And I was like, I feel like this woman would want to know. So, the way our ancestors, the way the invisible forces work for our good, if we are open and our ears are open, it's there all the time. And for me, Harriet was like, bitch, don't take this out of the book. Like, no. Like,
let them know who I be. Okay.
Didn't you hear me clearly when you were writing? Like, don't question it. That's another thing. Like for my kids, like I know that, when they're doing tests and things in school, it's always like your first answer, like go with your first answer. Cause that has your intuition. It's before the fear sets in. Right. And so for me, with people who are wondering and trying to understand their intuition, and perhaps have not created enough quiet space within their life to hear that, right? Go with your gut, the first thing that comes through to you. because
Ashe.
then what happens after that, then the fear comes in and it can stop you. Um, but that, to me, one of the first things for you to do is create those quiet spaces. So whether it is sitting in front of your altar for a moment and just meditating, or for people of color, which is really interesting, moving meditations are a lot more, I would say, they work for us better. So going on a walk, right, and noticing like the trees, the colors,
Yes.
or if you're in a city, noticing just all of the other things that would be in the city, beautiful
Yeah.
buildings, and
The
trying,
sounds.
yeah, the sounds, and trying to find the things that you're grateful for in those moments. But
Ashe.
finding the time to quiet your mind so that your intuition can come through. We are
Yes.
literally here to create. If you are wondering, oh my gosh, what do I need to do today? Write something, create something. When you create something, that is healing yourself. You're healing yourself if you allow yourself to create rather than just scroll, or, do things that are mind numbing, right? That
Yes.
brings you into a place of anxiety and all of these other things, that the space that, I don't know how else to say, the space that empire wants us to be in, which is numb, not knowing who we are, not knowing our power. If we know our power, there's literally nothing anyone can do to stop us.
At all. At all. At all. I love that. And that's a theme that kind of comes up, not kind of, very much comes up throughout your book. So I want to get deep into Shallow Waters and The Wind on Her Tongue, right? For those of you who have not read our sister queen, spiritual psychologist, the Griot work. Okay. Shallow Waters and The Wind on Her Tongue. They are two beautiful books that are fiction books, but they are based on real Apatakis, or stories within the Odus, right? These stories about the Orishas. And what she has done a beautiful job of is blending these lessons and wisdom, these pieces of wisdom with stories about the Orishas, but also real historical figures. I want to know, when you wrote Shallow Waters, what was your intention? Because I know you said you didn't plan on turning this into a trilogy, right? You had this idea, you wanted to do this. What was that initial intention when you wrote that one?
Yes. So the initial intention, I actually wrote it as a young adult fiction.
Yes.
And I wanted it to be in schools so that children can learn about that time in early America with the enslaved Africans and our ancestors in a way that was empowering, right? A way that it's like, oh my gosh, who is this magical mer being, right? That's
Yeah. Yeah.
black mer being. And so that was the original intention. And with Simon and Schuster, Black Privilege Publishing, for them, they were like, I think this needs to be an adult book, and then the adults will pass it on to the kids. To me, I was like, either or, because I love young adult as well. I read young adult books, so as a grown ass woman, I'll read them.
Yes. Yes.
But they were like, we really feel like it should be that. And so, but what has happened, which is really amazing and hopefully can stay within the curriculum, it is in certain high schools that have the AP African American Studies.
Yeah.
So they do have that in there because there are historical figures. So they're actually learning about that time. And when I tell you, ooh, these young people, they know. It
Yeah.
is in their codes, in their beings, the questions they were asking, um, the understanding of the demonization already, right? Like, I didn't understand that when I was younger, like why I wasn't allowed to learn about our stories and our
Yeah.
history and our religions and our spirituality. That it's like, ooh, voodoo, like,
Yeah.
like, and it's like, oh no, voodoo. Ooh, it is just one of the it's interesting that voodoo would be the one that's so demonized because it is such a peaceful religion.
Yeah.
And it is when I think about it, it's like, okay, yes, when you think really think about it, it's like, okay, yes, it is neutral. The energies are neutral, so it depends on the person who is practicing, right? The power is going to work for whoever is practicing.
Yeah.
And so that's where the neutrality comes in. But for most of it, it is about growing and learning yourself and, you know,
Ashe.
healing. And so it's interesting that that is the one that would be demonized so much. I mean, all of them are, but
But that was the one that we have to be real. You know, growing up, everything was voodoo, right? Hoodoo was more of a present day popular term that people are using. But back in the day, anytime you saw anybody on TV doing anything that was deemed as witchy, it was, if they were black, it was they do voodoo, they do voodoo. But I
exactly.
think that we know that the reason that voodoo was so demonized is because it was one of the spiritual revolutions that was used to create the first black independent country, which is Haiti, right? And they didn't want people, especially black people, to know and understand the power of this spiritual revolution movement. So we're going to use this term and pair it with it being evil and demonic so that people can fear it so that they can't use it against us, right?
Yep.
Which I have to say, you know, not bigging up the oppressors, okay, and the colonizers, but what I have to say is they did a brilliant job at it
Right.
because we have had to do so much work to decolonize the minds of our own people who to this day believe that these things are evil. You know, I just did a breakdown for Beyonce's Lemonade film, right? And we know that people who are in the limelight, who are famous, who are celebrities, people have especially our own people, unfortunately we've been colonized so much mentally that we believe to achieve this high level of success you have to do something demonic and evil, right? So many people have such a colonized mentality that they couldn't even see the beautiful spirituality within her work and it was automatically deemed as demonic, right? So even to this day, we are still doing the work to decolonize the minds of our own people and help them to understand that many of us are doing the spiritual work. People that you know who are well known, who are celebrities, many of them are doing the spiritual work. Many of our own people present day are doing the work. And I always tell the tribe, listen, there are people, and I love that you acknowledge this when it comes to spirituality, there are good and bad people, right? All over, from all walks of life, at all levels of notoriety, at all levels of economic success, there are good or bad people. And what you do is based on your intention.
Sure.
Anything, everything is neutral. Christianity is neutral. Hoodoo is neutral. Voodoo is neutral. Isheshe, Lukumi, Santeria, Condoble, Palomayombe. All of it is neutral. It's about the person who's doing the work and what is your intention when you are doing it. And I have to acknowledge this, right? Because once again, and I always tell the tribe, I said, listen, celebrities are people who their job just makes them popular. They are regular human beings just like everybody else. They just have a job that makes them popular. And with that understanding, just like people on your 9 to 5 job, you have good people who work with you and you have some crazy folk
Yes.
that work with you. It's the same thing in that industry. I have to acknowledge that you spoke about Simon and Schuster, but you also spoke about Black Privilege Publishing Company, who's a publishing company owned by Charlemagne the God. And
Yes.
a lot of people, even with that brother, they don't give him enough credit for his evolution, you know? So I wanted to share that with the tribe and acknowledge that because I think it's important for all of us to understand that just as we have had to do our own personal work, other people are doing their work too, right? And we have to be mindful of our judgment because to judge someone else is to judge thyself. To say someone else is impossible of change is to say that you are impossible of change. So just again, connecting that spiritual psychology, we have to be mindful of how the colonization has impacted our psychology, has impacted our perception of others and self. And just like the Sister Queen mentioned earlier, when it comes to doing that work, sometimes you will know what work you need to do based on what's triggered within you. And sometimes your triggers appear as your judgments, right? So we have to be mindful of that, you know? And in your book, Shallow Waters, when it comes to the promotion of the book, a lot of people were promoting it as a book about a mermaid named Yemeya, right? A book about a mermaid. And I just thought that that was so brilliant to promote it as a book about a mermaid, because unfortunately, a lot of people are still not ready to talk about Orishas or even embrace the concept of Orishas. So I thought that, and again, because of that colonization, right? But I love that you presented her as a mermaid, right? And it really is a great thing to do to appeal to the masses. Were you intentional about that? Like, how did you do the work to create such a beautiful book where you made it appeal so much to the masses while still incorporating all this real Black history and all of this Isheshe, Ifa, Orisha work? Like, how did you come up with that whole concept?
So it's so interesting because as you're speaking, I'm thinking of the concept of braiding. So the concept of braiding. So if someone is braiding with an Orisha or braiding with a goddess, right? You're taking the qualities of that goddess and you're kind of braiding your energy with them, right? It's not
Ooh, I
like
love
you're
that.
not necessarily becoming them, but we're braiding with them, right?
I
And
love
so
that. Oh, girl, we gotta take a moment. Let's take a moment for that. Okay. that. Okay, go. We just had to absorb that for a second.
right.
That's good.
Because it's just like you can feel it, right? Especially since braids are so important to our culture, right? It's like, yeah,
Yes.
it's all a part of it. And so that was kind of the energy that I had when I was creating the book, was braiding in all of these different aspects, right? Like wanting to bring in all of the Apatakis, the stories, the history, and also bringing in the spirituality, right? Also bringing in the kind of like that magical energy of the mermaid, right?
Yeah.
And doing it in a way, I was very, I mean, I definitely spoke about that. It is about Yemeya, Yemoja, right? Like I
Yeah.
knew that was what it was about. And I did have some people that, from all different walks of life, where it's like, some people were scared of it, or they're saying, oh, but she's a demon. And, so it's just like, okay, well, do you feel, because to me, I start with ancestors when people say that, because I'm like, okay, so do you feel like your grandmother, speaking to your grandmother, do you feel like that is demonic, right? Like if she has passed over. And because to me, it's like, think of an ancestor already, right? And then it's like the Orishas, for me, they feel like ancestors. I know that
Yes.
they're not, but they feel like that too. Or I don't know that they're not. I don't know that they're not. But that's, to me, that's where I place them. And one of the things that Yemeya said to me when I was writing was that I am bigger than the religion. There are going to be
Ooh.
people connecting to me that aren't necessarily a part of the religion. And she also said, my daughters are rising. Are
Mm.
rising. And
Mm.
so these things helped me, I guess I would say, write a book that so many different people can relate to, no matter what level of spirituality they're in or aware of, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And the book was absolutely so well received. And as you mentioned, people are still reading it even within schools, right? It's being incorporated into curriculum and everything, which is super worthy of that. And then you go to The Wind on Her Tongue, which is centering Oya, and you drop it in the year of 9, right? I have to know, which for those of you who don't know, just to, again, anybody who's new and have no idea about these orishas, it's important to understand that Yemoja, also known as Yemeya in more Latino-based Ifa practices, she is the divine mother of the orishas, right? And one of her daughters, one of her babies is Oya, right? And Oya, first off, Yemoja is the divine mother. Oya is all about transformation, changes. She's all about the ancestors. She's over the ancestors. She's the guardian of the inside of the cemetery, so you can find her there. She's also one of the guardians of the marketplace, and she's
Okay.
over that. She's over business, right? Business meetings
Business.
and things like that.
Yep.
She's also she's over many things. She's known as Oyayansa, right? Where she's all
Yep.
about great winds of change and again tornadoes and all those things, right? Now, this year, 2025, is a 9 year. One of her numbers is nine. She is the mother of nine. She's the mother of nine colors, right? She's also over the Ibeji, the twins, which was beautiful that sinners centering the Ibeji dropped in the year of nine, right?
No,
Yes,
no.
that's crazy, right?
There were so many moments in Sinners where I was like, what the fuck is like, I mean, I don't want to give away everything in my book, but it was just, there were just so many things that were
The
so
synchronicity.
synchronicities. I was just like, okay, we definitely got the same message at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes, the same download. And I think that, it's interesting that both sinners and the wind on her tongue dropped in this year of nine. Were you intentional about that, or was that just divine alignment?
It was divine alignment, girl.
Ooh.
It was divine alignment. It wasn't until one of my friends was like, yo, Anita, this is the year of nine. And I was like the beginning of the year, and I was like, oh my gosh, and my book is coming out this year.
Yeah.
But the way, so Oya, let me tell you about Oya. So writing with Yemeya was or with Yemoja, she was like very much mother. She was like on me. She was like, it was intense.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
intense. So I was actually nervous because in my mind, Oya is intense. She is the unbeatable warrior, right? Her energy is fierce. And so I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, yo, she came in like the homegirl, right? She's the mother
Yeah.
of witches, right? So to me, she came in kind of like, all right, let's do this. We're in this together. And there was also the energy of, for me, it was similar to kind of the trope of the angry Black woman. Like it was me, right? Where
Speak on it, girl. Speak on it. Because that was my whole thing with the year of nine. I kept telling people, like, listen, people fear Oya, right? Like, when I started out the video about the reading of the year of nine, I said, listen, y'all, I'm going to tell you this is the year of nine. This is Oya's year. A lot of people are afraid of her because you hear tornadoes, hurricanes, great winds of change, transformation. And people are so stuck on being stable and comfortable and content that they fear the change that she may bring. But what I always tell people is I said, listen, Oshun is like Beyonce energy. Oya is Rihanna. Right? Oya is the homegirl that's gonna come smoke a blunt with you, chill with you. She gonna keep it real with you. She ain't all like, sweet and loving. Both are valuable. Both are amazing energies to be around. But Oya is your chill homegirl that's gonna be like, girl, you need to leave that nigga and I'm gonna help you. She's that friend that's gonna help you pack and leave. Yes, yes.
that girl, and that is exactly what came through. That is how she came through. And I was scared because I was like, oh my gosh. But yo, like the way she came through, like her vulnerability. I know she also in the story, it's a coming of age. So she's learning about her powers, like learning how to handle them. So it is a different space. She's not necessarily matured in that, right? So there was that difference, but it was really about like the experience with mentors, with other women, friendships, and there is a bit of the love story as well, of course, but the main part is bringing in these women in history, Marie Laveau, Mary Ellen Pleasant, who have been demonized. And when we read this, it's like, oh my gosh, they're just powerful women.
Yes.
That's it. And what we've seen, or how people have written about Marie Laveau or ignored Mary Ellen Pleasant, like that, I didn't know who Mary Ellen Pleasant was. And for me, when I was researching the time period of when this book would take place, I just was like, who are some of the famous Black women in the 1870s, and she came up, and I was like, why have I never heard of Mary Ellen Pleasant?
Yeah.
And I'm reading about her. She's a voodoo queen. I was like, that's one of the reasons why I'd never heard
Yeah.
about her. She accumulated $300 million in 1870, right after slavery was abolished, right?
Wow.
She's said to be the mother of the civil rights movement in California. She owned buildings, real estate. She invested in gold, silver. She was a madam. She did everything, right?
A little bit of everything. A Renaissance woman.
A Renaissance woman. And she's one of the founders of Bank of California, which is now Wells Fargo.
Wow.
Why did we
Wow.
not know
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wow.
that this is a black woman, right?
Mm.
Did this. And so I saw that she studied under Marie Laveau, and her mother was a Haitian voodoo priestess, and her mother's mother was a Haitian voodoo priestess. So, girl, when I found that out, the book wrote itself.
Yeah.
It really just wrote itself, because these powerful women and what they brought to the story, and how I felt like I could give them their flowers,
Yeah.
and honor them, and just like really feel like, yeah, you're one of us. You're one of us, and we see you.
Ashe, Ashe. I love that. I love that. And I noticed that a theme in both Shallow Waters and The Wind on Her Tongue, which I don't want to give away because the wellness community, we read it, but I want to honor the people who may be watching this who haven't gotten the opportunity. Quite a few people in the chat said, I'm going to get the books now. I want to get the books, so I want to honor the mystery for you. But I have to acknowledge that a theme throughout both books is women stepping into their innate power, the power that you were born with, right? It's not something that you have to manifest. It's not something that you have to find. It's just something that you have to tap into, because everything you need within this life is born into you. That is a part of your soul contract, right? Something that was given to you, blessed into you when you were born into this human body as a spirit being, right? Now, I want to ask you, there's a lot of people watching this, but especially Black women who will be watching this and who are watching this right now. We have 500 people on here. I want to know for you, what would you recommend as a spiritual psychologist, as an intuitive, as a sister who is too doing the work? How do you recommend that people, especially Black women, tap into their power?
Ashe. So to me, it really is our intuition, because I believe Black women are gods, not just goddesses. We are the blueprint of creation, right?
Come on.
Everything in existence has come from us, from
Come
our
on.
ancestor. And so to me, it is really about what you said, is finding that energy within us. And on those days when we don't feel like we have it, I love that.
Yeah.
We don't feel like we have it, have your sister circle, because they are going to remind you. So if you create your community that can remind you who you are, we were not meant to do this alone. We were not meant to do this alone. None of it.
None of it.
And so being in community with people who can see you and can be your mirrors. And like you said, even bring that Oya energy, like, yo, this is what's going on with you right now. You kind of like got to check yourself,
Get
right?
it together.
Sometimes our friends need to check us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, to me, it's not about looking outside of ourselves to find what do we need to do next, or if I do this, then I'll be happy. It is getting so present with ourselves right now.
Ashe.
And thinking of the things that give you life. If you can think about what gives you life, even if you're like, oh, I went to go see Sinners and I felt like that gave me life.
Yes.
What gave you life about it? Is it because it is the griot, right? Like there's so many, like it's like really tapping into what gives you life. Is it your dog, right? That gives
Yeah.
you life, right? Like those things, and packing your day with that, packing your day with those things that give you life.
Ashe.
And when you do that, you're going to remember who you are. No one else can tell
Ooh,
you.
I
No
love
one else
that.
can tell you who you are. And,
Ashe.
one of the things with Shallow Waters, this is my love letter to Black women. That is what I said with this. And so within, one of the things that you can do with your works, so whether you're a writer, an artist, or anything that you create, you can infuse your work with your intention for the people who are going to see it, read it. So I infused it that whoever reads this is going to remember who they really are.
Ashe. Ashe. Yes. I love that.
Like there's so many different layers of existence. Like there's words, but there's so many things behind the words.
Ashe, I love that. I love that. Thank you for speaking on that and for acknowledging the gods that Black women specifically are. In the words of Badu, if we were made in his image, then call us by our name. I just released a conversation that I had with one of my sister queens, Empress Kwamine, and we talked about the nation of gods and earth's 5%ers. And they were truly before their time with evolution, because that was the philosophy, right? That we are gods and we have to step into our God energy. And a lot of people, I understand, people who grew up in the church, that was blasphemous, right? But this is what we have to understand, family. Like, we have the power to step outside of that colonization. We have the power to step into ourselves and realize that, once again, everything we need was born into us. And when we follow our intuition and we allow our highest divine self, also known as our Ori, to guide us, we allow our ancestors to clear our path and make it plain. We tap into our spiritual gifts. We do the work to heal from those traumas and find the gems within those traumas, right? And to braid ourselves into this energy, all of the energies that are surrounding us and working with us and working through us. When we find a way to do all of that, wellness is inevitable. It's inevitable, right?
It is
It's
your
not something.
birthright.
It is your birthright. Wellness is your birthright. I want to ask you for the tribe, and then I don't know how much time you have, but I wanted to
Girl,
also.
time doesn't exist right now.
Come on, Sister Queen. Come on, Sister Queen. I love that, and we appreciate that so
I want to
much.
say something really quickly with what you just said. When we think about like just even the concept of keys, right? The oppressor would never give us the key to our freedom or our liberation.
Come
So
on
it's
now.
going to come in through the religion that they have given. Not to say that there isn't keys and beautiful things within Christianity. There is, because
Ashe.
of who Jesus was, right? It is not, it's not in those scriptures that are talking about obey your master, right?
Right.
Jesus was not saying that. Right?
No, at all. At all.
It's not that, but the way in which, or the quality of Christianity that was given to our ancestors was not the key. It was not the key. They were trying to hide from us the key. And I think it's been, it's beautiful that there's been, uncovering of new things that are within the Bible, right? Like that, even thinking of Mary Magdalene and what was she saying, right? Like there's so many different things that have come up that have broadened that, but we have to remember that the religion that was given to us as members of the African diaspora is not the key.
Now, what would you recommend? What would you recommend to the tribes, to the communities, to the people? Somebody who is new and they have no idea of anything. Somebody is watching this for the first time. They are intrigued. You are the light to their fire. The wisdom is like waking something up within them. what are your three practices, your three keys that you would recommend to them to really start their journey of healing and get to the wellness that is their birthright?
Ashe. It's so simple. My first one is waking up and saying three gratitudes, right?
Ashe.
What are you grateful for before you pick up your phone, before, you get out of bed, before you use the restroom? Just simply just for take a moment and really get into that space of gratitude. Oh, this one practice. Woo!
Come
When I
on.
tell you the how powerful and magical it is. So water is ancient. The water we take a bath in, the water that rains down upon us has been around for millennia. It
Yeah.
is was the water that was around when it was with the dinosaurs, moving through us, through the dinosaurs, right? So water itself is a portal. So when
Yeah.
you are in your bath or your shower, right? Using that, like, you know, acknowledging that this is a portal, right? The water is a portal. Washing yourself, being very, I would say, intentional about may this wash away anything that no longer serves me. Now, this practice has changed my life. When you say, I am stepping out of this portal. I'm going to step out of this water portal and step into my highest timeline. So when I was talking about how everything is happening at the same time, there are
Yeah.
timelines, right, in existence, one that might have a lot of suffering for us, right? Like whatever it is. But when you step out of the portal, every time you get to step into a new place in your life. So I say, I'm stepping into my highest timeline where, so for me, I would say I'm stepping into my highest timeline where I have radiant health. My bank account keeps growing. My family is healthy, right? Like I am
Ashe.
creative, right? Listing all the things that you're stepping into and
Ooh.
do that shit every time you step out of water.
Ooh.
Yes. It's so powerful and so simple, right?
Girl, that's a key. That's a key.
Simple, right? And
That's a
then,
key.
yes, dance, dance, shake it off. In shallow waters, there's this one part where they talk about a shake dance. I got that concept from the native people of Australia, who they do this thing called the shake dance, where they shake off what has happened during the day. So just like shaking, you could put music on, or you could just take a moment and just shake it off, because things stick to us.
Yes.
I know a lot of people on the call, and I'm sure you are a very empathic, right? And so we take on what other people are feeling, what they're thinking. And so it's so important for us to shake that off.
I
Those
love
are
that. I love that. Oh, girl, that was powerful. That was super powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for acknowledging time, right? And the fact that we have the power to step into these portals, right? And open up these doors and manifest for ourselves. And that's manifestation. That's alchemy. That's so many different things, you know? Before we open the floor to questions and wellness community, I shared the link with y'all to be able to join the stage. Y'all can feel free to click on that link if you have a question. We'll take a couple. Now, I want to ask you this because this is a trilogy. This is a trilogy. We have Shallow Waters. We have The Wind on Her Tongue. Shallow Waters centered Yemoja. The Wind on Her Tongue centered Oya. The third part three, I'm pretty sure is centering our third most popular divine feminine Orisha, who is Oshun, the beloved Oshun, the one that everybody loves.
Oshun.
Which side note, I have to acknowledge that I love the fact that you chose to start with the mother, because a lot of people would have wanted to start with the most popular, the most publicly loved, right? But you said, no, I'm starting with the mother. So I have to give you kudos for that, you know? But now that you are bringing Oshun into the trilogy, what do you think is a unique lesson that Oshun can teach without giving any spoilers?
Yes.
Okay. What
Yeah.
is a unique lesson that Oshun can teach that maybe you weren't able to fully articulate with Oya or Yemoja.
Yeah. I mean, for Oshun, to me, I feel like it is rest is our revolution, right? Like we
Come on.
rest. It's us being in our beauty, our sweetness, our honey, giving ourselves that space. And I also think, as you were sharing, it's so interesting that Oshun came last because part of many of her patakis was that she didn't want to be left out, right? That's her thing. Don't forget about me,
Yeah.
right? Or even people just feeling, or other Orishas feeling like she wasn't important. She's not important. We don't need her. What do you do? You know? And she's like, I got the fresh water. I'm going to take the water away from you. Then what's going to happen now? Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
she's so powerful. I
She
love
said,
her.
I'll dry this motherfucker up, which speaks to the Oshun pettiness, okay? Speaks to the Oshun pettiness.
Exactly.
Oh, you
It's
don't
like,
care about me?
don't care
Well,
about me.
I'll give you that sugar Avery special, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was just talking with one of my besties, Marisha, last night, and we were just really going into so many of the different forms of Oshun and how she's going to show up, because my work is pretty intense, right? Like
Yeah.
they're intense books, and I was thinking, oh, this one's going to be so sweet, and it's intense as well. It's intense as well, and but it does have that sweetness, and it talks about a lot about artistry, people's artistry, creativity, that how that is life force energy.
I love that. I love that. Oh, come on. Rest is our revolution. Rest is our revolution. I love that. I love that so much. Now I'm gonna open the floor to the wildest community. Y'all, I had another question, but I'm gonna give y'all a chance to ask questions, and I'll ask my question at the end. Cause what I want to talk a little bit about is psychedelics and plant medicine. Cause I know that you done dabbled. Okay, I know that you've dabbled. So I want to talk about that too. But I'm gonna give the community the opportunity to ask a couple questions. First up, we have our beautiful sister queen, the gorgeous, the always glowing, amazing, intelligent powerhouse Farah. Peace, sister queen. What's your question?
Peace, queen. Peace, Anita. So nice to be part of this conversation. Such a beautiful, divine conversation.
Sure,
and on time, I see so many people in the chat talking about confirmation, and I've been experiencing that too. I'm a writer. I'm a poet and a playwright, and I'm interested in venturing into different genres of writing. And I was curious, Anita, what your writing process looks like specifically when you talked about grading the characteristics of the character with yourself. Yes. What does that practice look like, and how does your spirituality show up in your writing practice?
Yeah.
Excellent question.
I love that question. For me, a big part of the process is creating the space. So I do have, I have a candle lit right now as well, but I have my candle lit. A lot of my writing I do here in my bedroom, or I go to our local library. But it's so much about creating the space, because when we were talking about quieting our mind, it's like once we've quieted like those incessant thoughts, that's when the magic comes through. So it's almost like opening yourself up to the channel, right? And as a writer, I'm sure you've had moments of like, oh, this shit is channeling through me, right? It's like, this is going through. And so I feel like it's just that, not even thinking of what genre it is, right? Because that shit is only there to put us in boxes. To me, that's what it feels like. It's like, what box can you be put in? What genre? Girl, let it flow. Let it flow, and let them try to figure it out, right? Like, okay, well, what is this, right? Is it speculative, right? Like what genre is it in? But it just feels like, to me, you are at the precipice, because you already knew, like you claimed, You're like, I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I'm a playwright. I know. So to me, it's just like you're right there, and just opening yourself up, doing those practices to quiet any of those doubts, fears, anything like that, and allow it to flow.
I received that. Thank you. And I also just wanted to thank you for a lesson that was in The Wind on Her Tongue that I keep with me, that I repeat to myself in the beginning of the book when Oya kept getting triggered. And one of the twins kept saying, "This is not about you." Oh
come
my
on.
gosh. I repeat that to myself often in situations where I'm triggered by someone else's pain or someone else's grief, that this is not about you right now. And it allows me to step into the present. So I thank you for that gift, and just like all the spiritual gems that you dropped in that book. I love just the simplicity of the language, but like how deep it is. And that's what I'm trying to get to as a writer, like less words, but more depth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Thank you.
Much
thank
love.
you.
Much
Thank you.
love,
Thank you for
Farah.
allowing
Thank
me
you.
this opportunity, Queen.
Much
Yes.
love, much love. And thank you for asking such an amazing question. I love that advice to channel it. To channel it, allow spirit to speak and make space for the channeling, right? And I feel like that can apply to any art, any form of creativity, when we allow ourselves to just speak from spirit. Let spirit lead. And to do that, you set the tone for spirit to come in. You welcome them in. I have to acknowledge to the tribe that some ways to do that is just by making sure, number one, you clear your space, get anything out of the space that doesn't align with you, light a candle, open a window, right? Allow some fresh air in, maybe light you a good incense, get some herbs going, some smoke, put a glass of water out, some offering for the spirit, maybe cut up an apple or orange, some fresh fruit to offer the spirit and welcome the energy in. But also make sure that you are clear. Before you start practicing your art, make sure that you are doing your breath work to move any energy that is stagnant within your body out, to release it and let it go. Let go of anything that is blocking you, anything that does not belong to you. And as we know, the power of the breath work, number one, it calms the nervous system. But number two, it gives us the opportunity to focus the mind and remove any thoughts from our focus that are not aligned in our wellness. And that's how we make room for spirit to speak and to really, really channel the energy and allow spirit to express itself through your art. So I love that, because sometimes as artists, we can get too heady, right? We can get too much in our own thoughts, and to clear that energy, to clear those thoughts and allow spirit to just move through you. And that is so heavily demonstrated in Shallow Waters and The Wind on Her Tongue. And I have to acknowledge our next sister queen coming to ask a question was like, Queen, you got to read both. Okay, because I didn't read the Shallow Waters before reading The Wind on Her Tongue. And our sister Queen Phoenix Goddess, first off, before we even started the book, Phoenix Goddess was in the chat and she said, I hope you know that this book is out. Queen, do you know there's a book? Queen, this is the year of 9. There's a book. It's going to be the book, Queen. Let me send you the interview. She did an interview, Queen. This is the book. And I said, it's the book, Sister Queen. Okay. And when I say she was so helpful, because many of us, again, had not read Shallow Waters, I have to acknowledge and give my gratitude to this beautiful sister, Phoenix Goddess, because she was so helpful in us understanding what was some of the background that we may have missed because we didn't read part 1. So coming to the stage to ask you a question about Shallow Waters, The Wind on Her Tongue, and your work as a whole, we have our beautiful, amazing, very clearly divine mother to her beautiful, beautiful babies. Okay, Phoenix Goddess, Sister Queen, we love you so much. What is your question for Ms.Anita Kopacz? Can you hear? Can you hear us, girl? Oh, you listening to us on YouTube? She's a little delayed. Girl, you got to turn the YouTube off. You got to turn the YouTube off and listen to us on here. She's a little delayed, Sister Queen. Go ahead, girl. We can't hear you.
Are you on mute? No.
So you have to turn the YouTube off and then listen on the stream so we can hear you.
I feel so grateful. I feel so grateful that you brought the book to the community.
Yes, yes. She's a huge, huge fan. She was so excited. And many people were. We have Grayson also. Grayson is a fan. Grayson is a fan of many different types of fiction, but Grayson also was like, listen, we got to get to it, okay? We can't hear you, Phoenix Goddess. Oh, my sister queen. We can't hear you, girl. Okay, so I'm gonna bring you down off the stage, and then we're gonna bring you back up. So you have to connect to y'all in the chat. Let her know to connect to the stream. Listen through the stream and not through YouTube because the YouTube is delayed. So y'all let her know in the chat because she's focused on the YouTube. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna bring you down, and then I'm gonna bring you back up when you connect the mic and the sound to the stream. Okay, there we go. And next up we have Sydney. Peace, Sydney. Hey, girl. Question. Are you ready?
Oh, ma'am, I don't have a question. I was listening. I'm so late. I must have joined the wrong thing. Let me get on.
Okay. It's all right, Sydney. It's all right, girl. Next up, we have Keto. Keto, are you coming? You have your question ready, girl? Peace, Sister Queen.
I appreciate you both so much, and I'm glad to be able to say hi. I have not been able to tap into the wellness community as much as I love tapping into the wellness community. So I'm really glad that I caught part of this live because everything that you said has been resonating. It's so beautiful. I'm very inspired to read the book. So I look forward to tapping into the book. So my question is may be a little off subject. I don't know. Please, of course, feel free to answer if it is appropriate. But your hair is popping. I have to
come on, black girls. Yes.
It's everything. So I wondered if you would share any tips or how you do what you do with the natural crown that you have. And I'm going to take the answer off of camera. So thank you.
Okay.
Much love.
If you feel like answering.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. It's been a journey, the hair.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it is so much about the love and finding out what works for your own, what type of curls that we have, right? So I just do like leave-in conditioner, and then I don't even know. I'll send it. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So that maybe we can share it somehow.
Okay. We'll do that. Okay, Phoenix Goddess, are you ready, girl?
I am.
Come on, girl.
My laptop was hating on me. Okay.
It's all right. But you look even better. You came back better and clearer and glowing and popping, honey. Okay.
I'm on my phone now. Yes. I am so honored to speak to you. Yes, I was on them. I was like, we got to read this book. We got to read it. I was like, we got to read both. Let's read both. So I'm so happy to talk to you. Your work is beautiful. I saw you on Charlemagne the first time when you did the interview, and that was it. I've been following you ever since then. Read your book. It's beautiful. In the way how you write, we're like it's like in a movie. So it's like you literally could see it in your head. It's beautiful. So I'm so glad to speak with you. And you answered one of the questions about like when you were working with the Orishas for the book. So you already answered that already. So I'm not going to ask that. But before I asked my question, it was so funny when you was talking about the intertwining with the history and stuff. Sinners popped in my head. I was like, this sound like sinners. Yeah. So it was so funny how you said it was like when you said they were both speaking to y'all at the same time. Indeed. Yeah. Because I didn't even put two and two until you were speaking. I was like, oh, this sounds just like that because it's history. But besides the horror, you just, you stay within the Orishas and things of that nature. And I know, and it's so good to see you here so you're able to really speak how you want to fully, because I know you can't do that on the Breakfast Club. You got to leave some stuff out. So it's good to see you in this light so you could speak freely and exactly how you want to. But my question is, as we could see it in like a movie, is it going to be a movie or a series? What we going to do with this? Because this got to be visual. Okay? It can't just be in my head. I got to see it on the screen somewhere. Okay?
Manifest it.
From your lips to the Orisha's ears.
Ashe.
Happen. Yes, I've had the process start of, like trying to do like the selling the rights and figuring it out. But it's still in process. And so I also feel like even seeing Sinners was like, okay, it's like paving the way, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it's like, all right, these things are paving the way so that my stories can be made and seen and received. And I think one of my biggest lessons that I've learned in this lifetime is divine timing. Like, just moving with divine timing and still doing my thing, doing everything that I can do in my power. And then also knowing, because doing this work, it's so clear that it's not just in my hands. It is a co-creation with the divine. It is a co-creation with the Orishas. It is a co-creation with you all, with all of the people who are reading it and taking something from it. It is a co-creation with all of us. And so kind of opening up to that and saying, okay, then the divine timing of the screen is, seeing it on screen is going to be at that time.
Indeed. Can't wait for that. And I'm so happy to be with you. So good night, guys.
Good night.
Much love, Phoenix Goddess. Oh, wow. That was an amazing question. And we all want to see this work on screen. Now, I'm going to take one more question. Grayson, who is also a fan, he was super excited about us reading this book. And Grayson also was able to add so much more detail and explanation to some of the lessons. So, Grayson, King, what are your thoughts, feels, questions that you would like to ask Ms.Anita Kopacz?
First of all, it's good to see you, Queen. I haven't been in the wellness community much lately, but again, it's like the winds of change are returning. I'm trying to just keep up.
And we love you.
And it's actually pretty unbelievable that Miss Anita is even here for me. I was like, wait, what? Let me make sure I read this correctly. But anyway, so I am a writer, and I've suffered with my intuition in terms of like whether or not what I'm writing is intuition or if I should put it. And then there's that self-doubt, and then the feeling of wanting to quit, and then deciding when I'm done and things like that. Like, how do you cope with, like, if you have that feeling of like this isn't really good enough, or this isn't for me, or what's that called when you feel like kind of like phony, I think?
Oh yeah, the oh my gosh, Marisha, what is it called when
I'm thinking masking, imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. If you have that, how do you deal with it, and how do you go from there? How do you cope with the stress that can come, or the anxiety that can come with your own self-doubt?
So it's so interesting because towards the beginning of this session that we just had, we were talking about that record that happens in our mind, right? Like, oh, this is not good enough, right? There's things that happen, and it's like, do we pay attention to it? On both books, both Shallow Waters and The Wind on Her Tongue, the last time that I went through it before turning it in, I was like, this is so bad. This is shit. And then I'm like, no, it's another part of me knows it's not, right? Because there's so many different layers of existence just within ourselves. And so I don't act upon it, right? I don't say, oh, it's so bad, I'm not going to turn it in, or I'm not going to make this happen, right? I hear it, and I'm like, nope, that's not real. That's not real. And even it's such a process when we think about writing, because one of my favorite writers is Octavia Butler. And, you know, one of the things she was saying was like, you know, when I started writing, I thought I was a good writer, but I was a horrible writer, right? Like just the fact that she's like went through her whole growth, right, of just writing and writing. The time that she says she was a horrible writer, I love those books, right? She wasn't, to me, she wasn't a horrible writer. And so it's really about just doing what you're called to do. And when you hear those things, when you hear those voices, just like, okay, just let them pass. Okay, I hear you, and I'm going to let it pass. I'm not going to attach to it and put my attention on it and make it real. As much as you can, right? Like, but that's where, you know, the practices we were talking about like, you know, stepping into your highest timeline, where, you know, you're creative, maybe you're stepping into your confidence, right? Like, that's where the work of the proactive work of when we're not triggered, right? We do that work so that we kind of like raise ourselves up, so that we're at a different level when those triggers come in, right?
I say.
And another question I had was, I went through your books and I was reading them, and there were so many names I had to Google. There was a lot of names that I could Google and then be like, oh my God, this is a real person. And then like tab it so I can, you know, get more into it later. How do you pick which historical figures that you decide to use in your books?
I love
Great question. Great question. Yes.
Because the people choose me. And when I'll tell you, like, for I'll give you guys a little tiny peek into the next one. I'm not going to tell you everything that it's about, but you know, it is about Oshun. And one of the characters, which I won't say who yet, looking at her timeline, it was kind of 1901, right? And so this is how kind of some of the characters come through to me. So I was at a birthday dinner for one of my friends, and I went into the bathroom, and this song, Sun Shower, was playing, which is like, sun shower, it's the sign of the power of love. So it's a song from like the 60s, right? And I was like, who sings this? I was like, I think it's like Dr. Buzzard and the Savannah Band. But I was just thinking it in my head, right? And when I got home, I was scrolling on Instagram, and I saw this one guy. I'm so sorry, I don't remember his name. Someone might know his name. He's a spiritualist, a Black spiritualist, and he does videos. And he did a video on Dr. Buzzard. And I'm like, wait, who's Dr. Buzzard?
Yeah.
And, right, Dr. Buzzard, he's Gullah Geechee, and he would chew root, and like with that root, basically he would go into
the
courtroom and win these cases, right, by confusing people with the root, right? And I was like, what? Who is this? And I look at the timeline, and when I tell you, perfectly aligned. And so to me, that's how they come to me, the characters. It's like, you know, like, so it's really just listening to like the messages as they're coming through.
Ashe. I love that. Thank you, Grayson, for asking an amazing question and giving us the opportunity to hear that wisdom and get that little spoiler. Okay. Because I wanted that. I wanted one so bad. I was like, what's next? Now, we ain't gonna tell nobody. Now, before we go, I have a question, right? Because you are a spiritual psychologist, you are a griot, a storyteller, someone who passes forward so much wisdom. But again, as we talked about throughout this entire conversation, you are a person who is doing the work yourself. I want to know about your journey of incorporating plant medicine into your work. What made you decide, like, what was the divine knowing that this was the step that you were ready to take? And what was that experience like for you? How did it elevate you?
Yes. So I have been in relationship with plant medicine for a long time, different forms. So I've smoked weed for a long time, right? since I was a teenager, and I have I would say really felt like a lot of times with it, I would, channel with my writing, like once I would get into that space. And then psilocybin, am I saying that right? Yeah.
I think so. I think.
So mushrooms have been within the plant medicine that I've used. And now only with that, I would use it in microdose, and I've actually used that. It helped with writing parts of these books, like the way things came through. And I would say like the most intense journey that I've been on was with ayahuasca. Okay. And for me, for ayahuasca, I recommend only if you feel so called, if you feel really, really, really called. It is an intense journey. And mine was super intense. But when we were talking about the shadow work with ayahuasca, it drops you straight into your shadow. It drops you. I mean, everyone has a different experience of how that looks and how it works. But it's like you get to meet your shadow self and, be in communion. And it was so important for me. My experience, what happened for me, I did it with a shaman in Peru. And when I went into the journey, like the first thing I saw, so with ayahuasca, you drink it. It's almost like a tea looking thing, like they create it out of the ayahuasca plant.
And it's a small amount that they give you. It's like a little shot glass worth.
It's a little shot glass, yeah. And so when at this particular journey that I did, as soon as I drank it, it hit me so fast, because usually it takes a moment, a part of the process is regurgitating it, right? Like, and so I took it, and as soon as I took it, all of these blue lights just went shh, and then all of a sudden it turned into water, and Yemoja, a huge version of her, was just in those waters. And I swam up to her, and she held me in her arms like a baby, and she said, "You can have whatever you want." I was waiting for the but, or and you have to, or anything that comes after it. Nothing came after it. It was just like, you can have whatever you want.
Ashe. That's powerful.
And so if it calls, I, absolutely, like to me, it's like, yes, do what fully calls to you, but also make sure it calls, because it's not for the weak of heart.
The purging process alone, right?
Yes.
The purging. I have a sister queen in the tribe who just did it, and she was saying that she said she pooped everywhere.
I did. Everywhere. Me too. Yeah. So while I was having that amazing experience, my body, right? I was purging. I was throwing up. I shat my pants. Like all of that. Yeah. And so your body goes through, or that won't necessarily happen to you.
But it's possible.
But it's possible. If I ever, which I probably won't, but if I ever do it again, I'm going to wear an adult diaper. 100%.
If you could do anything, you're going to put that pamper on, okay? But I think it's so beautiful, because a lot of people fear it for that reason, right? They hear about the vomiting and the pooping and all of that, and they're like, I don't know. But spiritually, as someone who's experienced it, what do you think that spiritually symbolizes, having that physical purge?
It is a purge. It is a clearing. It is letting go of those things that were in the way of learning those things, because it's not just about the physical clearing. There is definitely a spiritual clearing happening when you go through these things. And so the fear, it's kind of like, okay, is it a healthy fear, feeling into it, or is there even such thing as a healthy fear? I don't know, but yes, I would think,
I think so, yeah.
And so just like going into it, feeling into it. Is it Dick Gregory? I feel like it was Dick Gregory who was saying, like when people are like, oh my gosh, do you check with your doctor? Da, da, da. And he's like, do you check with your doctor when you do cocaine? Right? Because he was talking about basically doing a cleanse, right? And so they're like, oh my gosh, like it's he did water cleanses, he did like things, and they're like, oh, is that dangerous? Do you you need to talk to your doctor before? And he's like, do you talk to your doctor before you do cocaine, right? Like,
or eat those damn Doritos, or do whatever bull, drink the soda, all the other shit that's not healthy.
Yeah. And so it's like, yes, you can, if that is a fear, right? And see if you have an open-minded doctor, right? Like, but to me, it's really going with your intuition. And do you feel called to do it? The way the medicine worked through me, it was the deepest lesson I've ever had in my life. The deepest lesson. And so, yes, it was intense. I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but all of these things came through it, like there is a part in Shallow Waters that I wrote before I did it, where she takes the plant medicine within in here, and she wakes up to her guide, who in the book is named Cora, and my guide in my plant medicine ceremony was one of my good friends who's named Cora. And
wow,
it was as if I wrote the experience before I knew I was going to have the experience.
Ooh.
And so it's deep. If it does call to you, it's a journey.
Yes. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I know that that's a sacred experience, right? And, and I'm pretty sure a lot of it you choose to keep private, which is understandable. So again, I just thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with us. And thank you for everything you have shared. It's been so much wisdom, so many lessons. I loved everything that we've been able to talk about. This is one conversation that I'm walking forward with, not feeling like any stone was left unturned. I appreciate your vulnerability, your education, your wisdom, your work as a griot. I want to ask you, before we go, open the floor and give you the opportunity to share any final thought, lesson, message, anything that's on your heart. What's a final word that you would love to leave with the tribe?
So use your tools. The fact that you said there was no stone left unturned, this whole time I've been having my Merkaba. So if you see, it is a stone that is carved into 2 pyramids. So what a Merkaba does is I rub it on my heart. So sometimes if you see me rubbing my heart, when our spirits are traveling interdimensionally, this keeps our body, our system intact, so then we can do spiritual work and feel like our body is grounded. And so that is, I feel like using your tools, if you have those tools, use them. They're not just supposed to gather dust in our toolkits.
Ashe. And our book of the month this month is Living in Wisdom by Debbie Brown.
Yay!
Beautiful sister queen. Yeah. We are loving that book dearly. And in the book, she talks about her totems, right? And a sister queen, shout out to Mika. Mika was like, what are totems? And all of us was scrambling through the book to find where did she mention totems, right? And that gave us the opportunity to talk about some of those spiritual tools. So thank you for introducing the tribe to that one. For those who may have never heard of Merkaba, right? Definitely research it, get into it, and utilize it and add it to your chest of totems, in the words of Debbie Brown. Sister Queen Anita Kopacz, spiritual psychologist, griot, tantra coach. Okay, which we're going to have to bring you back again to talk about that. Yes. Okay, we got to talk about the tantra, talk about the beautiful aspects of sensuality and sacred energy exchange and transmuting pain into pleasure, that alchemy work that tantra is, right? That's a whole nother conversation. Okay. So we'll definitely offer to have you back on for that, and I would love to continue the conversation on that. Thank you for so much of your time today. I didn't expect us to be carrying on this long, okay? But when we enter into it. We into it, honey. I thank you for your wisdom and again your vulnerability. And Shallow Waters, The Wind on Her Tongue. Baby, if y'all have not gotten either of these books, you need to get into both of them. Okay, because they build upon each other. And we know Oshun is coming through soon. All right. And I'm manifesting all of this being turned into a beautiful visual, because one thing about your work as a writer is you are so vivid. You are so vivid. And like Phoenix Goddess said, it's like a movie. And that's what really drew me in. As I was reading, I was visioning. So this work is not just for adults, you know, and honestly, this is not even something I would say you need to be 15, 16. I would hand this to my child in middle school. You know, this is words of wisdom that they are prepared for. And you can open up the conversations about embracing the divine feminine energy, regardless of gender, just through these books, you know, the power of stepping into your own divine power. You know, so again, thank you for your works. Community, support the Sister Queen. Go to her website, buy her books, and support. Much love, Ms.Anita. We appreciate you, girl.
This was amazing. I appreciate you.
Ashe. Much love. Thank you so much. And family, tribe, I will see y'all. Wellness community, I'm going to see y'all tomorrow, okay? Because we are going to get into our book club listening party for our next book of the month. And YouTube family, I will see y'all on Friday on the 23rd, because I'm going to come to talk about the new moon in Gemini that we have peaking on the 26th. So we'll get into all of that. Family, I love y'all dearly. Wellness community, our tribe, butterflies in the sky. You know I love me some y'all, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Much peace, much wellness, and y'all have a beautiful, blessed, prosperous, manifested in wellness day. I love you, and I'll see y'all soon. Much peace, y'all.